What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with Astrodfs bringing you a brand new video. Today's video is how to start building your lineups for week one, right? So my strategy that I always prefer to start with, some people go the other route. I like to just get my defense out of the way, right? I think defense is probably, on most cases, the least impactful to lineups. Like, you got to understand how much you're paying for a defense. If you're paying for a top defense, so on this slate, you get like Dallas at 3,900, and you watch what it does to your average salary, right? So anything under your average, so 5,500, you're paying 3,900. Like, you get an extra $200, right? Now you look and you go to the very bottom defense, 2,400. You get an extra 400, right? So I always prefer finding a defense under the 3K range, unless there is something ridiculous going on with the team, right? So like the Bengals against New England, you can make that case. I'd understand it. Seahawks against Denver, like that's a good one. But Bears against Tennessee, like, but you start to look at these offenses. Like I like Dallas's defense, but you know they get points. Am I paying 3,900 against a Cleveland team, right? I don't feel confident in that, right? I'm gonna take a shot on a team down here, right? I'm going to take a shot on Carolina. That's dirt cheap, 2,400 against New Orleans. We go back and we look at what Carolina's defense, that was very bad last year, and what they did. 3 points in week 14, week 2, 7, right? So average 5 points against New Orleans last season. 5 points at 2,400 is amazing, right? You get 7 points, that's amazing at 2,400. Put this into perspective when you're picking it, right? 7 points isn't really a game changer, but you go find a $2,500 player, you can't, right? You could pay the bare minimum at any position, and it's still more expensive than a $2,400 defense. They get you 0, guess what? It's better than nothing. They get you a couple points, it allows you to pay at other positions, right? So you put this in, you get Carolina, right? You're at 5,900. So that means you're starting off really, really good. You go and we look at some running backs, right? This is one that I kind of look at and go like, hey, is there any running backs that stand out to me under the 5,900 mark that I kind of like in this matchup, right? And just for the sake of this video, I'm gonna go with we'll go with Gus Edwards. Touchdown upside Gus Edwards, right? Or you can go down. I know we just saw him. Jerome Ford, 5,500. We'll throw Jerome Ford in there. Puts us at 6K, right? And now you can start to balance out some of your rosters. But you want to have core pieces and then figure out the rest of your roster. My thing I like to do next, after I have my defense, is get my quarterback. I want to get my quarterback. I want to figure out how my roster is going to build outside of that, right? I think it's another good start to have. So, someone I like, Baker Mayfield this week, right? Now, Baker Mayfield is not, go and look at Baker Mayfield last season, and his rushing upside, gets a touchdown in week 14. That's it, right? You look at his yardage, maybe get you a point or two. No, he's getting it through passing. So we need a pass catcher to go with Baker. So we're going to look at the Tampa Bay pass catchers. Mike Evans, 7,300. Who else do we have, right? Chris Godwin, 5,800. You can go and you look at some of Chris Godwin's, like 91 receptions in 144 targets, only 4 touchdowns. So the touchdown upside wasn't there, but Chris Godwin had some good games, right? So if I start building my lineup and I go, I want Baker and I want Mike Evans. Those are 2 pieces I want. And I start building and I go, you know what? Maybe Mike Evans is too expensive for other positions. Maybe there's other plays in here that I like really well and I just can't afford Mike Evans. And so we go, what? Hey, you know what? Maybe Mike Evans does outscore Chris Godwin here. But at the price difference of 58 to 73, how much difference does that need to be, right? And we see our money, we're still at 6K. right? And now you go and you're some people would find guys in this range, right? 5 to 6K. You're like, oh, this guy fits it. That's not always the best thing, right? You want to find the best plays. You want to find guys that are going to have really good matchups. So, for instance, I like Justin Jefferson this week, right? Now, watch the average salary per player, right? It goes down a lot getting Justin Jefferson in there. So what do we do to help that out, right? We need to go very cheap at a wide receiver. We need to find a wide receiver that's cheap to put in there with him, right? So just going down, look at some names, right? One name I like, Rome Odunze. This might be biased, but hell with it. Just for the sake of the video, Rome Odunze at 4K against Tennessee. Let's plug him in, see what it does. It almost puts us right back up there, right? So you got to consider what these two wide receivers are worth, right? If you combine them, that's 12.4, so that's 6,200, right? Now, would you rather have, two guys in the 6K range that are kind of iffy, they just fit that, the price tag, or would you rather have a guy at value, right, with upside and a, superstar player that's going to get you a lot of points, right? All that is being considered, right? You're looking at matchups that other players in this contest are going to take. So, obviously, this one is a milli maker. If you start going double ups, that's a lot different, right? The ownership's going to be different. Exposures are going to be different. There's a lot of scenarios going into it. So, for the example of this video, we're going to keep going, right? We're just going to build a lineup for you guys and go over just some roster constructing here. I mentioned Gus Edwards, so we'll put someone like Gus Edwards in, right? Is there anybody up top at the running back that we really need? Obviously, Jonathan Taylor against Houston last year. You look at his games, 30.6, didn't play the other one. Zach Moss did, and I think we could get that game. Against Houston, 20.7 for Zach Moss. So about 25 averaged for Indy. Do we need him? Maybe not necessarily. James Cook is a name. I want to get a Buffalo guy. So we'll throw someone like James Cook in here, right? Obviously over the salary. Tight end. Tight end is typically always cheaper than the average. So that's a position that you can get some advantage in typically, right? Obviously if you get like Travis Kelce, Laporta, those guys are typically above. But usually you find some value at the tight end position. So we put James Cook in there. I like Dalton Kincaid. Let's throw another name in there. Let's throw Dalton Schultz as our tight end, 4,900. That puts us with 6,700, right? So now 6,700. I put Godwin in earlier. Seeing how it played out, let's put Evans in. We're left with 5,200 at our flex, right? And that's always the important thing, is having that flex as an opportunity. We start to look at some of the guys around here. And, maybe there is a play, but we're looking right around this range, 5,200. We're not finding anything. So then we revert back, right? We're going to go back to Chris Godwin, 5,800. We go back 6,700. Now we start getting some other plays, right? Kamara against Carolina, but we have Carolina's defense. You don't want to do stuff like that. You don't want to play guys against your defense. Most of the time, it's just, you're hoping one guy scores against another one. But like when you get these run backs, so obviously I have Baker and Chris Godwin. I hope they have a good game. If you're really hoping that game goes off, right, we're going to look for Scary Terry right here at 5,600. So we put Terry McLaurin in. What happens? We have 1,100 that we could spend in our lineup. So let's go and let's take Rome Odunze out, right? He's our most valued guy. We have a extra 1,100. Let's see what happens. We run back in the same situation as earlier, 5,100, right? So maybe it's upgrading somewhere else, right? Maybe it's upgrading Gus Edwards. So we go back and we're gonna put Rome back in the flex. We're just gonna select the Bears here. We're gonna select Rome. There he is. And we'll take Gus out, right? 6,400. We can upgrade to a running back. There's some decent running backs, like Ken Walker, right? And now we're left with 300. You look at defenses, right? Now we had the cheapest defense. Is there a defense that kind of stands out that we could look at? Off the rip, not really, right? I in my opinion, I like Carolina's defense. We look at tight end, Dalton Schultz to Ferguson. No. You know, maybe we just pick Ken Walker. I don't know why I unselected him. Unselect James Cook, like Travis Etienne. So, you know, maybe we're stuck in that spot. 300 left over isn't the worst thing. Maybe look again at Rome Odunze. But the other thing to take into consideration when building these lineups is looking at Vegas lines, books, looking at what the over-unders are, and if you have a really high-scoring game, that's kind of what you want to go after. It's, you know, Vegas is betting against us, essentially. So you want to look at those lines, you want those high totals, and it kind of helps the DFS out. So this is just an example line for everybody, but just showing, you know, kind of some of the thoughts that go through my head when building a lineup. If you guys have a different process that works for you, by all means, go for it, right? I think there's many ways to construct a lineup, but having a quarterback like Baker, right, somebody that's not going to get fantasy points like Josh Allen. You look at Josh Allen, the way he gets fantasy points, right? He gets 6, 7, 7, 4. The touchdowns are there. He's getting a lot of rushing upside fantasy points, which means you don't always need a pass catcher. You don't. Now, it's good to have someone like a run back on Arizona, like Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison, something like that. But someone like Baker who doesn't, you want a pass catcher with him. At least one. If you go 2, that's not always a bad thing. And then you're hoping for a run back, right? So, picking Baker and Godwin in this example for Tampa, running it back with Terry McLaurin. So, we're hoping Tampa goes off. And if that game is a good, high-scoring game, Terry McLaurin, who's the number 1 pass catcher on Washington, should be having a good game in response to that, right? The defense, I want a cheaper defense, right? If a defense goes off for 15, 20 points, by all means. But if you're paying a defense 34, 35, 3,800, where you're getting some other guys at that value, right? Rome Odunze is 4,000. And those defenses go off for, like, you know, less than 5 points. Don't go off, sorry. It's bad wordage. But if they only get you like 5 points at 3,600, that's not good, right? If you get a defense that you're paying below minimum for, like Carolina, and they get you 5 points, that's really good. You're setting your other guys that you hope are scoring more, right? Hope are averaging, I can't remember the exact number, but I think it's like 18, 19 points, something like that, to be in a really good spot for cash. 20 points, something like that. Like, it's somewhere around there. If you're hoping those guys get that and Carolina's defense gets you 5, you set yourself up pretty good, right? So you want to target guys in high totals. You want to target high, you know, heavy favorite running backs is always a good one too. Going after, I think Cincinnati has one of the better spreads, so targeting someone like a Zach Moss or Chase Brown in those matchups, like, those are things to take into consideration too when playing your DFS lineups. Something to just help yourself out a little bit more with. So hope you guys did enjoy the video. Still waiting. I don't know where these showdowns are, right? We have 3 showdowns missing for the DFS slate. If not, tomorrow's video will be going over the Thursday night showdown, and we'll just go from there, right? If they don't have a contest out by tomorrow, I will not have one going over Friday. I apologize. My schedule cannot do that later than tomorrow. But the Sunday night and Monday night, I definitely can have those out for you guys if they're posted Sunday, right? So hoping those are posted either Sunday or Monday. Like, those videos will be out, but I'm just looking for the Friday one for you guys. So hope you guys enjoyed. See you in the next one.